Hey everybody, it's me, Mitch. I'm in the kitchen and today I'm going to make a video that consolidates most of, if not all, of the secrets and methods and techniques that have enabled me to sustain with no cheating ever and no feeling deprived 2 years and 5 months of a carnivore lifestyle. And since we're talking about how I execute carnivore, this is going to revolve around the kitchen, and I'm going to do this while I make my first meal of the day, my usual first meal of the day, bacon and eggs. So let's get this stuff out and get started. And we'll talk about the basics, the things that many of you already know, and hopefully, even though you may know some of these things, maybe you'll be reminded of things that you forgot that I've talked about before. But I thought it'd be fun, and I thought it'd be informative to consolidate this into one video. Hopefully it won't be too long. And it revolves around the kitchen because that's basically what carnivore is. It revolves around the kitchen. It revolves around the kitchen. Cooking, prepping, storing, the appliances I use, the food I store, the contents of my pantry, the timing of it, everything that I do. So let's get the bacon and eggs on the stove, and then we'll start taking a little tour of how I've got it set up so that I can do this with as little time and energy as possible. How I have certain appliances that I use, little tools and gadgets that I use that make this pretty much a no-brainer. And the first thing I want to talk about is basically how I deal with my eggshells. Everybody asks me that. I take a bag, and I even reuse the bags that the bacon comes in. They have Ziplocs on them, and I'll use them to store a day's worth of garbage. I don't put garbage down my drain. I put this stuff in a bag and just throw it in the trash when it gets full or starts to smell when I open it up. This one is just from yesterday. There's still some room in it. It's okay, no problem. So I'm going to put the eggs. I'm going to use 5 eggs here, and I eat about a half a pound of bacon and 5 eggs for at least 6 of the 7 days a week. And that, my friend, covers just about half of my meals. About half of my meals are bacon and eggs because I happen to believe that bacon and eggs are natural foods that contain exactly the right fat to protein ratio, especially eggs, and that just makes it a lot simpler. I don't have to keep track of all that stuff. I just know that I eat about a pound of bacon and eggs a day, 6 days a week. On the 7th day, I may eat one of the things I'm going to tell you about in a little while. I may eat that for my second or my first meal of the day. Today, for my second meal, I have a gorgeous prime rib. Look at this, that I took out of the freezer yesterday. This is 1 pound, 6 ounces, and this is going to be my second meal of the day. I will sous vide it and sear it off in butter in a carbon steel pan. And I'll show you that at the end of my little kitchen tour and finish this video with me preparing the second meal, which will take you through a full day of eating for me on this carnivore lifestyle. But for now, I have 1 egg left in this pan, and we'll put the bacon and the eggs back in the fridge. And That's all the prep I need for that. I'm ready except for, and you'll excuse me while I beat my eggs. Little Redmond's real salt. Thank you. And for those of you that are interested, that netted me about 10 ounces of beat up eggs. The bacon's cooking. The eggs are ready to pour in the pan. Let's continue. Over the course of a month, this is my average distribution of my different meals. My basic meals, the ones I eat the most, are bacon and eggs and beef of some sort. I pretty much limit my beef to ground beef or ribeyes. And I alternate that most days as my second meal of the day. So on my average day, it's very simple. Bacon and eggs, first meal. Beef, either ground beef or ribeyes. If you watched my video recently about how I prep food, you'll know in my freezer, everything I'm going to eat for a month is in here. I've got the ground beef pre-packaged into 1 pound packages. I just grab one of those the night before. I've got all my steaks vacuum sealed in the freezer, ready to just grab one the night before. So I decide every day, the night before, what I'm going to eat. I've got a humongous supply of bacon in here. But also in my freezer, I've got the variety. I've got the things that I eat on those day or two a week that I don't eat bacon and eggs. I usually eat chicken once a week, and I have chicken thighs and chicken wings frozen. So the night before, I will take them out of the freezer and put them in there. I might eat fish instead of chicken that week. So I have a lot of different kinds of fish and seafood, or even pork and ribs. Here I have some pork belly. Occasionally I make soup, so I usually have a portion of soup, but something on that 1 out of 5 or 6 days that I want to add variety in is already in my freezer, ready to go for at least 30 days. So I don't have to think about shopping other than maybe catch up on a little something that I ran out of. Generally, it's going to be eggs. Other than that, or maybe ground beef. But other than that, I'm set. Makes it very simple. And making it simple is the most important thing in order to sustain this. The less you think about food, and the more you just eat what you're supposed to, the less food-centric your life's going to be. You're not always thinking about a new recipe. You'll find you're not watching cooking shows anymore. Food just becomes the gas station for you. It's where you go to fuel up your body. In cooking these meals, my prime objective is to make it quick, fast, a no-brainer, some method that always comes out good. And that's where all the appliances and gadgets come in. All the appliances and gadgets. And I'm going to take a break for a second for a crash commercial about my Amazon links. These are links to things that I bought for my own use and find them indispensable in executing the carnivore lifestyle. You can go to my website at oldguycarnivore.com. On there, I've got a page that says links to stuff I use every day. These links take you to Amazon affiliate links of mine. And when you buy something through these links, it helps support the channel. Here is everything I use, every kitchen tool, gadget, and everything else. If you think, and there's no obligation, but if you think you might want to get some of the stuff that I use in my videos and do this yourself, whether it be food, supplements, kitchen appliances, tools, gadgets, frying pans, whatever, I would really appreciate it. oldguycarnivore.com, links to stuff I use page. Doesn't cost you a dime more, and you're really helping me continue to do what I do. Thanks so much, and let's get back to it now. And let me take you on a little quick tour while the bacon's cooking and show you what I'm talking about. As you've just seen, on my Amazon links, I've got all of this stuff. I've got my sous vide setup with the immersion circulator and the container with the rack in it. I've got my WeVac chamber vacuum sealer. I've got some air fryers, frying pans. I use 2 different frying pans. I have the vide 11-inch carbon steel, and I use that primarily and only for searing meat. And then I have a very popular pan, the Mueller 12-inch ceramic stone-coated pan that I use for when I need to fry pretty much anything else. And if I fry something in bacon fat, like my salmon cakes, my chicken wings, I'll use this pan. Works great. It looks like the bacon is ready to flip over, so let's do that right now. Oh, perfect. Look at that. There's a sound that I never, ever, ever get tired of. And this bacon is producing a good amount of bacon grease. I will probably save half of that bacon grease in one of my gadgets, which is this stainless steel bacon grease catcher, and this filter. Filter was out because I just dished a bunch out of the thing to use to fry salmon cakes the last time I made them. So we'll put that back in, and that will filter the bacon grease when I dump half of it from this pan into that. This is great. It allows you to accumulate more bacon grease than you'll ever know what to do with if you eat a lot of bacon, especially as much as I do. It's fabulous fat for frying anything. I fry my fish, my cod or haddock fillets. I fry my salmon cakes. I fry my chicken wings and chicken thighs in the bacon grease, especially if I pork rind coat them. I make fried shrimp in there. But again, that's only on 1, maybe 2 days a week when I'm not eating what are the basics to my lifestyle, and that is eggs and bacon and beef. That is the majority of what I eat. Do I miss the variety? No way. Okay, so the bacon is done. We'll pull that out. Just set it over there. I will take and pour about half of this into the bacon grease, and I will leave enough of it in the pan to really cook the eggs in the grease. The eggs will soak up most of it, and then I will get the benefit of most of the fat that rendered out of that bacon. And that's all there is to that. So while the egg cooks, we'll put the bacon grease catcher away. I've got this down to a science, and don't really need to blot the bacon, but I do blot it off a little bit because it's less greasy when I pick it up in my fingers. But there's plenty of fat left in the bacon. We'll put this away, and I'm pretty much all cleaned up from breakfast already. I call it breakfast. It's coming on noon right now, but I usually eat my first meal of the day sometime between 11 and 12. I'm not famished, I'm not starving. I could live without eating, but it's turned out to be a pretty workable schedule, and my hunger level at the point every day at 11, 12, not having eaten since 3 or 4 the previous day, is at the level of, I could eat. That's about the best way to describe it. I don't have to eat, but I could eat. And one of the things that I need to be cognizant of on carnivore is making sure I eat enough food every day. That's a problem a lot of people have, is because their hunger isn't nagging at them all the time. Sometimes they just don't eat enough food. My goal is at least 2.5 pounds of food every day. I don't count macros. I don't worry about my fat ratios because I eat those foods that come with the right fat ratio in them. But I want to make sure that I eat enough nourishment to fuel my body and rebuild those things that are being rebuilt. In order to make my cooking a lot easier, I have a lot of gadgets. You've seen a lot of them before. I have a thermometer that tells me temperatures of hot oil in a pan. I have a little hamburger press up here, which I hardly ever use, but some people like the idea of making perfect half-pound hamburger patties. I have my sous vide bags in case I want to sous vide something that may not be already vacuum sealed. These are silicone. I've got my digital thermometers in here with remote readouts if I finish a steak in the oven or something, or in the air fryer and want to monitor the internal temperature. I've also got my meter, which is a Bluetooth digital thermometer that I use quite often. If I'm putting something outdoors in the smoker or on my barbecue grill, I use a remote monitored thermometer, and I don't have to worry about it. I can always see how well it's cooking. Of course, I have your basic kitchen instant read thermometer, which is something you can't live without. I have over here my plate that I eat off of, because there's nothing more primal. There's nothing more primal than eating off of a nice wooden plate and using a nice razor sharp knife. All this stuff is on my website, and all this stuff just makes it easier. This is about ready to flip. So let's flip the egg over. Without making a big mess all over everywhere. Perfect. And it'll finish cooking, and my breakfast will be done. So I'll turn the heat off while that's finishing up, and it won't take long. Let's come over, and this is my pantry. This is it. This is all I have as far as food. There's not a carbohydrate in here. I have sardines and anchovies here. I have some canned salmon here. I have a bunch of canned tuna. I do have some iodized salt, which I hardly ever use. I have some baking powder or baking soda, which I never use for anything. A couple of old bottles of olive oil, which I hardly ever use. Some grass-fed ghee, which is great. I love that stuff. Ghee is clarified butter. I have another case here, another case of my salmon for making salmon cakes. I have a couple more bottles of my pork rind crumbs. I always have some big tubs of pork rinds handy. And then over here I have my different salts. There's the Redmond's real salt. There's a couple of bags of Himalayan pink salt. And that's it. That's all I keep in my house. Makes it very, very simple. Makes shopping very simple too. There's not much more to that. You saw what's in my refrigerator. I have a little chest freezer outside. And in there I have a bunch of meat and things that I store for basically long-term storage. I've got a huge omelet here that's done. I'm going to put it on the plate. And that's it. And the only cleanup I have is I'll take a paper towel and wipe out a little of this grease that might have been left in the pan, and I don't even have to wash it. I'll wipe off any little splatterings that happened on my cooktop. And for all intents and purposes, other than 2 minutes worth of washing a few dishes, I've accomplished the preparation and cleanup for my first meal of the day. And now all I have to do is eat it. So I'm going to take a little break here. I'm going to eat my first meal of the day, which is these. Beautiful. Look at that. Beautiful bacon and eggs. A healthy portion. And then I'll come back in a little while when I put the steak in the sous vide and show you in the sous vide machine and show you that. And then we'll come back a couple hours later and show you how I sear it, finish it, and then sit down to eat it. That'll take you through a full day of my eating, and you'll see just exactly how much of my time I spent doing the work to eat like this. Well, time to put the ribeye in the sous vide. This is quick and easy, takes a minute. First thing we'll do is plug it in, wait for the beep. Go ahead and check the temperature, 128 degrees, set the timer for 2 hours, and start it. Get the steak, a beautiful 1 pound, 6.7 ounce ribeye, gorgeous. We'll take it and we'll stick it in here in the rack. Make sure it's all underwater. Close the lid, and in about 2 hours and 15 minutes, it'll be ready to sear. We're going to sear it. We're going to sear it in my debaillé, or debailleur, for those of you that don't speak French. Carbon steel pan in butter. Wow. And what we got is this leftover Mueller frying pan from this morning. It's got a little grease in it, left over from the eggs. I want to show you just how quick and easy the cleanup is. I'll get my daily garbage bag out so we can put the paper towels in it. I will take and just wipe out the grease and whatever's left in here from breakfast this morning. Little tiny pieces of whatever's left in there. Brush them out. Wipe it out real good with another paper towel. Wipe any grease that may have splattered on the sides. Don't even have to wash it. That's all there is to clean up from the breakfast. This thing is now clean. Got a nice coating of bacon grease on the inside, which certainly seasons it up nicely for the next time. And it's ready. And that's it. That was the sum total of my preparation for my second meal of the day. And all that's left is to sear off this steak and enjoy it. I keep saying, it doesn't get any easier than this. See you in a couple hours. Okay, time for dinner. Time to sear off this steak. I'm going to get it out of the sous vide. It's perfectly cooked to 128 degrees internal temperature. Unplug that. Bring the steak over here. First thing we need to do after you open the bag is dry it off. You always want to sear a steak that's not wet. I'm going to turn the burner on And we're gonna finish it off in butter. So, about a ½ inch pat of butter. We'll put it in there and let it start to get hot. We're going to get my infrared thermometer out. We want the pan hot, but we don't want it too hot. So I'm going to use this. Right now the pan is cold. It's at 118 degrees. We're done with the sous vide for today. I change the water in this thing about once a week. The water never touches the food, so it doesn't matter if it's a week-old water. Shame to waste all that water. Okay, we need just a set of tongs. Nice thing about the carbon steel pan is you can't scratch it, so you don't have to worry about using metal utensils like you do in non-sticks. And we'll cut open the bag. And what I do is leave the juice in the bag. Reach in with the tongs, get the steak out, and we'll lay the steak on the paper towel. And I double them up. I double them up because these things get pretty wet. And then I'll take my trusty little daily garbage bag. And I will put this bag into it so that none of this liquid spills out into the trash itself, and maybe in a day or two starts to make it smell. I generate very little trash at all. It isn't unusual for me to go an entire week and just fill up one of those Glad kitchen bag liners. Okay. Got this nice and dry. I'm going to salt one side of it with Himalayan pink salt from this little salt grinder. And that's really all the salt we're going to need. God, this is a beautiful looking steak. Look at that. And that's going to do it. I'm going to turn the range hood on, which will make a little noise, so I apologize for that. Carbon steel conducts heat very well. Okay, this is super hot now, so I'm going to turn the burner back down. It heated that quick up to about 500 degrees, which is hotter than I really want it, but it'll cool down as soon as this steak hits it. I'm going to do the edges of the steak. So we'll put the steak down in the pan and let it start to sear. While we're doing that, we'll get my steak plate out. Because it's great to eat these steaks off of wood. We'll get my nice sharp knife and we'll finish searing this off, and that'll be all there is to it. That'll be all there is to it. Not very complicated. Granted, it took over 2 hours in the sous vide, but it took me about a minute. A minute's worth of my time to put it in there, and then you just leave it alone. It's going to take maybe five minutes total to sear it off. Maybe another 5 minutes to clean up from this entire day's worth of eating. And that's how simple it is. I have playlists on my channel. One playlist, carnivore recipes, where I talk about searing steaks and making all the different dishes, even the ones I only eat infrequently, for a little variety. I have a playlist about cheap carnivore. Some of the dishes that you can make that cost very, very little. That, my friends, is seared perfectly. So we'll leave it a minute, minute and a half on that side. It's that simple. I don't focus on food. I don't spend a lot of time cooking. I don't want for anything. And that's the greatest thing about this, is my desire for new foods, different foods, fancier foods, trying new recipes. All that has gone away. It has become meaningless to me. This is indeed, without a doubt, what we call food freedom. And when you think about how much the average person spends, not only in money, but how much time in their day thinking about, shopping for, cooking, cleaning up after cooking, all of these meals that contain 5, 10, 15 different ingredients in that search for what they think they need is variety. Your body learns it doesn't need that variety because in this, right here, in this frying pan, in this steak, and in the eggs and bacon I ate previously, virtually everything that my body needs, save for a couple of supplements. I take iodine, electrolytes, and a little vitamin D. Everything I need was in the food that I ate today, and I want for nothing. And I'm not really all that hungry right now, but like I said earlier, I could eat, and I'll eat until I don't want to eat anymore. And if there's any of this left over, I'll save it for tomorrow, and maybe instead of bacon, I'll have leftover steak with my eggs. But I doubt it, because once I attack one of these steaks, I usually finish it. So we'll shut the burner off. We'll take this steak and put it over here on the wooden plate. Remove this from the heat. And we are done. We are done. And we'll bring it over here and sit down and cut it open and see what we ended up with. I can tell you what we ended up with. It always comes out perfectly. There's never a doubt. So I'm just going to cut this steak right across the middle with this razor sharp knife. And then I'm going to cut a couple of nice slices out of it. God, I love this part. And we're going to move this over to here. And we're going to look and see what we got. Oh my God, look at that. Look at that. Look how beautifully done that is. Perfect. Perfect. Crunchy, seared well on the outside. Perfectly pink on the inside. Holy cow. Look at that. Look at that. And juicy. Look how juicy it is. And I didn't have to rest it because I never got the inside hot enough to overcook. That quick sear only cooked the outside. So let's take this piece and let's cut off a hunk of it. And if you aren't eating your hearts out right now, you should be. Look at that. Look how that is. And I'm going to beg your indulgence while I chew this thoroughly. Here we go. That was a big chunk of steak. It's fabulous. It's delicious. I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this. I enjoyed all the food I ate, both the huge plate of bacon and eggs for my first meal, this almost 1.5 pound ribeye for my second, How in the world could anybody want to eat any better than this? Food that tastes any better than this tastes, and reap all the benefits that we do living this lifestyle. And that'll wrap up this video. I took you pretty much through today, but I showed you how simple my setup is, how few things I actually have to keep around, how quick and easy I can prepare almost any meal, how little cleanup. But the most important thing is that I never want for anything else. This is without a doubt the most natural and satisfying way to live. I never would have believed it before I started. And the longer I do this, the more firmly that conviction gets implanted in me. I'm carnivore for life, my friends. You can be too. It's easy. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep it as simple as I keep it. And you'll be doing just like I'm doing. And you'll be able to join the club. Thanks for watching this. I hope there was something in some of this that maybe you hadn't heard before, or reinforced some doubts that you may have had. But that's it. Pretty much everything you need to think about as far as eating that pertains to the carnivore lifestyle. So I'm going to eat this. You take the rest of the day off and eat your own meat.